Hello, Whatnuts, Humpty Dumpnuts, and everybody else. It is the wee hours here at Amerant Bank Arena in Sunrise, Florida, and it's a special emergency on-location edition of What Chaos, because the 2024 Stanley Cup has been won by the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers, your Stanley Cup champs. And also, I phrased that weird because there isn't a 2024 Stanley Cup. There's just kind of the two Stanley Cups that they have, and there's not a... They don't do one every year.
You're still the 2024 Stanley Cup champs, but now we live in a world in 2024 in which the Florida Panthers hold the cup, which, growing up, boy, never ever thought that would be possible.
Thought it would be possible. Watched them in the cup final. Liked some players that maybe we don't we praise so much anymore. A little bit of trouble there. Some my favorite goaltender as a kid. But hey, we move on, and moving on is what the Oilers fans will be doing. But we're gonna give plenty of love to the Oilers. Trust me. You know how this show goes. There's gonna be a lot of Oilers talk. But for this, we are talking about the monumental Stanley Cup victory by the Florida Panthers, a team that honestly, Pete, when they blew the 3-0 lead, I didn't have this like massive embarrassment for them because I didn't know enough about them still. Even as they had made their run to the Cup final last year, I knew they had this dog in them, but I didn't know that they were so powerful that they wouldn't blow a 3-0 lead against an uber-talented team with the best player in the world, a goaltender that was getting so much better, a coach who really had a team that was very difficult to play against. I still had a little to learn about the Florida Panthers, and as far as game analysis goes and everything, I tip my hat extremely strongly to Paul Maurice and the gang, because finally, I would say, it had been a very long time, but the Panthers came out, I'm disgusted as I say this, threw their bodies around, came
real
out
physical,
strong, and had this start that we've been waiting for them to have, certainly in Game 6. But we all thought in Game 5, like we thought that Game 5 was probably the biggest threat for this series to end early. And the Panthers do it. Their first victory in franchise history. Don't say that this team doesn't have fans. I, obviously, as an Oilers fan, was despondent up there. We can talk about our game watching experience. It was stressful and everything. But I'll tell you what, as those final seconds ticked down and I knew the Oilers weren't going to win, the next thing I saw was a dad taking video of his kid. Dad, tears in his eyes. Old couple, tears in their eyes. A bunch of those gorgeous red 90s Panthers jerseys. The Stanley Cup being awarded is is just the best fucking thing in the world. So even as the worst thing was happening to me as a sports fan, it still just fucking blows you away when this thing happens.
It never gets old. It really doesn't. And like even in 2019, when I covered it for CBS and the Bruins lost to the Blues, and that was the first time that I went down on ice level, and I was like, obviously heartbroken. My fucking favorite team I got my heart ripped out, and being down at ice level, seeing how happy the guys are, seeing them celebrate with the cup, and just kind of taking it all in, it really doesn't get old. And I'm glad you brought up the fan experience part of it, because we talked about back in the studio during the streams, like, you know, this is an opportunity, Game 7. People have been talking a lot of shit about the comparison of the markets, the comparison of the atmosphere within the buildings, and now Game 7, Florida's got a really good opportunity here to show what they can bring, show it like their worth in terms of a fan base. the building was electric tonight. It was electric.
Incredible atmosphere.
And anybody who can say like, well, of course it was electric. It was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Even in 2019, not to keep going back to 2019, but 2019, as soon as the puck was dropped, very quiet,
Bad atmosphere.
very nervous. When you can excuse that. Like, obviously people are nervous and shit, but I mean, this was a team and a fan base that just watched their guys blow a 3-0 lead in the Stanley Cup Final. They would have had every reason to be quiet as a pin drop as this game started. Atmosphere was electric the entire way, and when they won, you're right, like a lot of tears, a lot of hugging, a lot of release that you could tell had been building up for like a lot of these people decades.
Yeah.
Decades of embarrassment and darkness and being punching bags. It felt very cathartic.
And the shit about like you have 6 fans or whatever, I'm like, okay, like relatively, okay? I am a diehard fan of a Major League Soccer team, which is not the most popular soccer league in the world, of course. The fans are insane. They're so like if you love something and if something means a lot to you and you've been through the highs and the lows with it, it really like it doesn't matter if there's one of you or a million of you. Like, you're still feeling that. And tonight, all those people, if there were 6 Florida fans, they were all here, okay? And
they were loud.
And they were extremely loud. And yeah, the place was banged out also with Oilers fans. I will say part of why it looked so cool, I realized as the game went on, it was one of my few non-stressed or I'm going to go get more cookies thoughts was the orange like did help kind of like fill it out, even though it filled out anyway. But like
it wasn't very contrasting,
right? Like the scene just like looked like it was lit up because you had like the sea of red and blue, and then orange as well. The atmosphere was crazy, and it helped. I think that they had that great first period. Oilers came out of it 1-1, but that final 40 seconds took years and years off my life. Second period, Oilers push back. They're in control of the game, and you're like, all right, phew. A penalty's coming here, something's coming here. And look, I was wearing my white Stu jersey. I love Stuart Skinner. I love that you love Stuart Skinner. I love that we're our Stu Skinner podcast.
He's important to us.
And that he's important to us, and that he proved so many people wrong this year. Not only proved people wrong, but in the face of a lot of shit about you need to be replaced, you need to be this, you need to be that. Not only did he hold it down, he's 25 years old, he improved during that time. Like, it's one thing to get through something, but to get through something and actually continue to progress and be better. Like, I can't say enough good things about Stu Skinner. He's become one of my favorite hockey players. Hockey's a cruel sport. You can give up bad goals, multiple in a game, and still come away with a victory. This ends up being a 2-1 game, and the game-winning goal is a terrible goal that he allows to Sam Reinhart. And yeah, sometimes great goal scorers score on you, and if you give up a bad goal to a great goal scorer, it can be forgiven because people are like, Reinhart, game-winning goal. History will remember a great player scoring a great goal. You can't allow that shot off the rush, short side. Everybody in the world knew that he was shooting. Yeah, they had numbers. It was a really, really, really bad goal. And what's terrible about it is otherwise, I liked Stu Skinner tonight.
Yeah.
He made a huge stop point blank not long after that on a puck that was kind of bouncing around. He, not quite to the degree of Jeremy Swayman, who was like nails the entire way, but a lot of goalies this postseason played really, really well and just learned that one fuck up at the wrong time can do you in. I know that no one's going to remember this as being the difference in the game ended up being one of the goalies gave up a bad goal, but I'm super happy for Bob. We can talk about him in a second. I think the bigger conversation will end up being about Connor McDavid.
Yeah, I mean, I want to continue on the Stu thing. Like before today's game, we did a show and we said like nightmare scenario for an outcome of a game is if Stu has a really bad game and sort of undoes the goodwill that he built up through the course of this run. Not even close to happening in this game. Like that, he had a good game and let up a bad goal. And much like the Swayman moment that you referenced against the Panthers in the second round, it's easier to let those go when like you only score one goal. That was the story for me, is that the Panthers played an incredible defensive game, and sort of the defensive game that you expected to see from them more in this series. In games one and I mean, what do you want to say, like 4, 5, 6, they all kind of just like they opened things up, and you didn't get the lockdown Panthers that you expected to see more in this series. They played an incredible defensive game, and I thought that the Oilers were very frustrating in trying to do the same thing over and over again, which is trying to force passes through the middle.
First 50 minutes, nothing to the middle.
Trying to be cute, and like you saw Connor McDavid had a bad game. He had a bad game in Game 7.
I fucking hate that he did.
He was circling around a bunch, turning the puck over a bunch. It just felt like they were trying to be cute and score perfect goals, and when the Panthers are playing that well defensively, you got to adapt and you got to make those changes, and they just didn't do it. It was frustrating. Bob also played incredible, especially in the third period. Bob was insane, and you said it, like if the Panthers end up winning this series as an Oil man, and Bob is the reason why, I can stomach that. I can be okay with that because Bob kind of deserves it, and it'll be a good redemption story for Bob.
I'll be happy for Bob.
Bob has cemented himself as like a Florida legend, and like maybe a Hall of Famer tonight in one night. I think the narrative changes completely if they lose this game.
Oh yeah, I mean, he gets remembered as a postseason puddle, which would be a bit of a stretch because he's been good in the postseason at points.
He would be a postseason snowman. He's solid in the beginning, and then he melts into a puddle.
Is that, did you get that from the book of Tea of Bag Boys?
I didn't steal that one.
That's like as good as...
Thank you.
Man.
You gonna cry?
No, the Bob thing is the Bob thing. I can take the Matthew Tkachuk on the ice after the game, just being a hero out there, making basically every player's kid's day, just like going around to all the kids being like, do you understand how cool this is, buddy? And like, so that's always, I don't want to be like, yeah, that's real fucking neat, but it's the Stanley Cup. It's amazing.
It's so, I feel like such a fucking dweeb, but I'm also so glad that I'm not jaded by any of this, and that it is very, very fucking cool.
Oh yeah, I was talking to another prominent podcaster who was rooting heavily for the Oilers in the series, Joe Rogan, and I said, Joe, and then he talked for 8 hours straight. I don't understand a fucking word he was saying. There was a Fuddruckers sign behind him.
And then he did a 14-minute Traeger Grills ad read. Yep. It was really awkward.
And then I became problematic just from that interaction. And that was that. No, we were saying, like, every time this is won and every time it's awarded, it's chills, it's all this shit. And granted, this is the first time I've seen the Stanley Cup won by a home team. So that was something. And It was won by the home team when I was wearing the jersey of the away team. And shout out all my Oil men and women. There were a bunch of them. We were hugging each other. We were commiserating. Everybody so nice. Shout out Panthers fans who were like so happy. They're jumping up and down and everything. But then they were like, I'll be honest. You guys, man.
A lot of Panthers fans had the energy of Bob Stauffer in the elevator, where like you were coming around and you were being nice to a lot of them, and they were like,
"Oh no!" There was one guy that was like, "We're going to be going at it all night." I was like, "No, we're not. I'm going to be nice to you."
Yeah, there was a lot of people like I think they had their guard up to like being ready to be made fun of or mocked or like being adversarial, and then like all of them so fucking nice.
Yeah.
Except one guy in the line to the bathroom was a complete asshole and almost got in a fight.
No, Sean, you got your mic. You know what I'm going to reference. Sean and I were doing a little Sean was doing normal eating between the second and third period. I was doing stress eating. And a Panthers fan screamed. Right? Would you say screamed?
Yeah.
At an Oilers fan who was walking by. Oilers fan walked by.
Believe
was doing
so,
a light "Let's go Oilers."
Yeah.
Just trying to rally like the let's say the 6 of us that were in the area.
He's loyal to the oil.
And this guy screams.
I've never seen someone more miserable while their team was on the verge of winning the Stanley Cup.
Oh, like the Panthers fans?
The Panthers
Yes.
fan was
okay.
miserable.
Shut the fuck up! I'm sick of these balls.
And then he was just sitting in his chair, like all pissed off, like rubbing his head, taking his hat off.
Yeah,
like hot.
Like he needed to cool down.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was
And
kinda crazy.
Very casually, a drunk Oilers fan who who was just drunk eating, who had his back to us. I don't know even know how he knew we were there.
Yeah.
He just turned to us casually and was like, "That guy's got a bad family life."
Yeah, got a bad home life.
Oh yeah. He was like, "Shit's not good at home for that guy."
And then he
comes
turned
here and
away, and then he turned back, and he's like, "You guys tried these sweet potatoes?"
Oh yes, and then he tried
And then
to
he
push-
turned away, and then he turned back again. He's like, "Have you guys tried these sweet
Yeah, he was
potatoes?"
like, "I'm not kidding."
He tried he asked
Sweet
twice about the sweet
potato.
potatoes.
That guy is my favorite person in the
He was
building, and I
awesome.
didn't even meet him.
There were a lot of good people in the building. There were a lot of good
It was
people
great.
in the building.
One of my takeaways here tonight is we talked with Jeff Merrick, I believe, about the dying art of the cup lap.
Oh.
And the cup lap tonight
Was
was
good behavior.
fucking unbelievable.
Yep, it was back.
Barkov took off.
Took a thing a
jets,
mile.
Maybe took it for a mile, and maybe the speediest in terms of just
So
like
fast, the
radar
ESPN
gun.
cameras missed it.
Yeah, the ESPN cameras missed it. Yeah, couldn't cut in time. He was out of there like a fucking jet. It was unbelievable.
You know why?
Panthers are fast.
They can't. Oh,
True.
true. They can't act like they've been there before.
That's true.
They've not been there before, so they get to do their own thing, and they threw it back. They said, "You know what? My dad told me that teams, when they won, used to fucking skate around with it, and they would just go all the way where they wouldn't do this little dipsy-do dunkaroo in the neutral zone where they just hold it straight up and twist a couple of times."
Yeah. Like they're on some sort of fashion week thing where it just spins you around for the camera.
Yeah.
No, Barkov did a lap and made it count, which maybe the reason why we are our brains are being tricked into believing that that's a trend is that teams keep winning on the road. Maybe it helps to win at home and to
You wanna run to the glass.
want to give it the full lap for all the fans.
I was a huge fan of the order in which they passed around the cup.
Give it to me.
Obviously started with Barkov, then went straight to Bob, and then Oposo and OEL.
Just all the old fucks.
And I loved that.
All the new old fucks.
Especially, guys that have not been around for this whole ride, but they understood, A, their importance, and B, how much it meant to them. And obviously, as a Kyle Oposo guy and as a Arizona Coyotes OEL guy, RIP, it was awesome to see. And you could see it on the ice, especially with Oposo. He was happy.
Yeah.
He was happy. And he told a story on the broadcast about this time he spent with his sons yesterday, leading up to it, and I was very happy for him.
Well, with the Poso, it certainly wasn't for lack of trying. This happens a lot for guys who don't play a lot of playoff games. They'll get into the postseason and they're just fucking crash test dummies. They take a million penalties. They're just trying to do too much. And Kyle Oposo, in this run, ends up taking a bajillion penalties.
I mean, he didn't play in Game 6, correct?
Yeah, they took him out for Nick Cousins. Speaking of, what was I going to say? Oh, a bit of credit that I'll give the Panthers. They went back, once they took that 2-1 lead, especially in the third period, they went back to being the old them, which is we fucking own the building, I think, or rent the building. Right? We can be here all night. We will ice the puck until Leon Draisaitl gets sick of taking faceoffs.
They took 1,000 ices.
They just kept icing it, and I was like, I said to a Panthers fan, I was like, hey, fucking good play, good form. That's you're allowed to do it, and obviously it's a huge risk. You can't change your guys after, and they kept sending Draisaitl out to take those draws, and really, I have to look. I think draws were even through 2 periods, but Draisaitl was winning a lot of those offensive zone faceoffs when they kept icing the puck, but That's what the Panthers will do. They're like, we'll just fucking, as long as we get the puck at some point, we'll just throw it the length of the ice. And they reverted to some of their endearing, annoying fucking qualities, and they won the fucking cup.
They played physical as hell. They were throwing the body around like crazy in that game, and it was finally the desperation that you wanted to see from Florida. And you kind of said this off the top that like we don't have still a real clear idea of like Florida's identity in terms of like a person-to-person basis and like guys as a collective in the room, like especially relative to the Oilers. I feel like I've like spent this entire run with the Oilers because maybe it's just like their content team is unbelievable, but like they're constantly churning stuff out. You're constantly hearing from Oilers players, and I feel like the only guys that you really hear consistently from on the Panthers are Paul Maurice and Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, I mean, Tkachuk was a rock star on the ice after the game.
Sure.
Like, everybody wanted a piece of him. It was awesome that Brady was out there living it up.
Day one of what's going to be like 75 days of Tkachuk this summer.
Yeah. Congratulations, Florida Panthers, Stanley Cup Champions. I'm gonna get sick of that at some point. God bless, God bless Matthew Tkachuk. He
rocks. He
earmuffs
rocks.
and everything, and the Oilers fans love you so much. It's tough to say after seeing. Like I do like Matthew Tkachuk.
How can you not?
Great fucking player.
I guess
mean,
there's a lot of people who don't.
I'm a Marchand guy, and he is while not the defensive player that Marchand is, he is every bit the unbelievable shit that Brad Marchand is, endearing. And for him to, like, I do like that guys like that win.
Yeah.
Like, I like when guys like that win.
And like Marchand, a very good dude off the ice, by all accounts. Like, has time for everybody, is just like a really nice guy. So like, he's a star. He's going to become a mega star this summer. His family is going to be the stars of the summer in the NHL, as they deserve to be. That is going to be like the summer of Tkachuk is going to be a thing.
We have a full episode coming on, what day is it? Tuesday. Pete's birthday, by the way. As we tape this,
Sean's too.
Sean's birthday. As we tape this in America, it's Pete's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
It will be Pete's birthday in Canada next week. But the last thing we should talk about, though, is Connor McDavid wins the Conn Smythe, does not come out and get it. We'll talk about it more on the actual episode, but I just want to say off the top, A+ behavior on that. I know that's going to be controversial. I know that not to cast aspersions, I can imagine some Canadian media will not be happy with that.
I saw the old Zach Hyman hater Andrew Berkshire said like, "What the fuck is up with that?" And it's just like, I can't be mad at a guy. I don't know. Don't think I'd call it A+ behavior, but I'm not getting upset and I'm not getting mad and I'm not blaming a guy. Like, Connor McDavid was distraught on the ice, and he leaves the ice, wins the Conn Smythe, doesn't come back. Who fucking cares? Who cares?
Also, he's their captain. Like, what is he? If
he's
he's
a
back in the
competitor.
locker room with his team that just lost the Stanley Cup, he's supposed to skate his ass back out there for his moment.
Right. Hey, guys, sorry about that. I got to go join the, see that tunnel there? That's the tunnel where the winners go. They're letting me do that tunnel for a second. You guys enjoy this fucking loser-ass Luka tunnel, fucking windhorsting his own guys. He's not going to do it. He just wants to fuck.
I get, like, the whole, like, professionalism and like, just, like, show face for the league or whatever, but, like, it's very difficult, and I have a hard time trying to tell somebody how to act in what is one of the hardest and most disappointing moments of their entire life.
This is also a player where every 5 seconds we have been demanding a legacy moment from him. Legacy. He has an incredible, undeniably superior to everybody else playoff run, and does not have a good final 10 minutes of this game, let's say. Overall, does not have one of his better games. Overall, does not finish this series strong.
No.
How do you think he feels?
Yeah.
And let's add in as well.
1 goal game,
The
too.
biggest overarching thing, he lost the Stanley Cup. Game 7. He was this close. He was 1 goal away. I mean, Zach Hyman, if he's left-handed, I was like yelling from where we were watching the game, like, God, why can't you make Zach Hyman left-handed? Then this is all a moot point. They end up going into overtime. But, man, I say this in defense of Stu. I say it, I guess, against Connor McDavid. The Oilers can say they got playoff CC. Got Game 7 CC. Cody Ceci, one of 2 players with a point in this game because he assisted Matthias Janmark's only
primary, right?
goal of the game. There was only 1 assist on that play.
Oh, really?
Cody
That's
Ceci,
crazy.
Matthias Janmark.
Man, it's.
I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to get sad. I'm going to get happy for the Florida Panthers is what I'm going to get.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. We also talked about the idea of McDavid winning the Conn Smythe after a loss, and how that would be used as meme fodder and like just be used against him for forever, and he would constantly be mocked with that. Not that I think that that's like the reason that he ducks that moment or whatever, but it's just people were looking for a reason to get like upset at Connor or mocking Connor, and it's a bummer that it has to end that way for him, and and the Conn Smythe and that whole moment. But who cares, man?
Oilers fans, giving this moment to the Panthers.
Very
have
brave
a
of
lot
you.
of thoughts on McDavid, on Draisaitl, and I was going to put a bow on this conversation by saying, well, I have a lot of thoughts on how they're going to be right back here next year, but it would be an awful thing to say as we discuss the Stanley Cup champion. So, sincere congratulations from the What Chaos crew, Sean DePaz, Pete Blackburn. Congratulations from them
Yes.
to the Florida Panthers.
We're also on the ice for the celebration. We got to go down to the ice at ice level for the Cup celebration, which was great. And we have like a bunch of photos and videos and stuff, so maybe we'll dump those in.
Yeah, we're gonna be
here,
dumping
and
stuff.
you guys can enjoy them and all that. But I'm glad that the season ended with a very, very good, very entertaining game. Like that's kind of obviously we were pulling for the Oilers, but.
I mean, I didn't love that game.
I
I don't know how good a game that was.
That was a great game.
I enjoyed
that
it.
was a
It was
great
a good.
game.
It was
a very entertaining, intense game.
Yeah.
Like that's what I wanted. It would have been so disappointing if this series and this season ended in a game that you knew was over like 15 minutes into it. This was a great game that came down to the final seconds, and I felt like it was very worthy to close out this season.
Great first period, asshole second period, and furious finish. I think that is enough to tip the scales in the favor of it being a great game. I can give you great game. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers. Normal episode coming. This is just the, hey, let us be the first to tell you. I did see, we were walking.
Be the first to congratulate
Sean,
you, the Florida Panthers.
You missed this. We were walking back down towards the ice. You had already gone down to the ice, and somebody was on the phone, and he said,
That was amazing. That was
they
so
won
good.
that shit. And I looked back, and I was like, oh, man, I wonder who he's talking to. This is good. What a great moment, Panthers fan and everything. And he said, I'm not joking. They won. And I was like, oh, he's actually notifying somebody that he's talking to somebody who didn't have that information and needed a phone call
That's
to
hilarious.
find out.
Literal breaking news.
Yeah, just be like, hey, I'm going to the game tonight. All right, let me know how it turns out. I know you're going to be busy, but let me know how that ends.
And also the fact that they weren't watching, so they didn't know, but they also cared enough to think that the person would be messing with them.
Yeah.
And would lie in the first place.
That's my favorite part of it is the clarification that they're not joking, as that person is probably
no, I know
just
I got
hearing,
you last year, but this time it's for real.
and that
They
person
won.
is probably just hearing screaming people all in the background and being like, yeah, I kind of got it. That place seems very loud. They just won the Stanley Cup.
Unreal.
So that was a very funny moment to close out the game.
Last person I want to congratulate. I want to congratulate Roberto Luongo. He's had this coming
Beating
very
the allegations.
long time. Happy for him. He beat the drum before the game and everything, so he gets to get a ring. He was going to get a ring anyway because he works for the team. But man, talking to some Florida Panthers, like longtime Florida Panthers, who wanted to win with this team, wanted fans to be happy, and now work for the team. Gregory Campbell, Sean Thornton, etc., and they get to do it on the other side. A lot of good people were pulling the rope for these guys, and they won. So that is the update from us that the Florida Panthers have won the Stanley Cup. We'll have an episode for you tomorrow when it will be Pete's birthday. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.